up, you guys? My name is Aubrey and this is my channel, and today I want to talk about a proposal by some lawmakers that would give some children money every single year into a high-interest government savings account. This is an effort that has been brought up many times over the years, but it's recently been brought up again, and it is a proposal that could in some way help close the wealth gap. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about this proposal. I'm going to be talking about who it would affect and how much money it would be for, and we will be breaking down all the details of whether or not this is actually a viable option that could really be passed by lawmakers. So let's get started. The discussion of closing the wealth gap is a discussion that has been had by lawmakers for an extremely long time now. The discussion of how to close the wealth gap. How do lawmakers assist in the process of leveling the playing field with low-income children versus higher-income children? How can this process take place, and how can government assist in this process? This has been a discussion that lawmakers have had for an extremely long time now, but despite the fact that this is a discussion that is fairly ongoing in Washington, there hasn't really been a whole lot of headway in getting any significant proposals and bills passed in this effort. Well, recently, lawmakers, including Senator Cory Booker and Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, have introduced a new bill that would assist in this process, and that is the Baby Bond Program. Basically, what this means is that any child born after December 31st, 2021 would receive an American Opportunity Account. And basically what this is a high-interest savings account that the federal government would deposit money into. That way, whenever the child turns 18, they have access to these funds. How this would work is the American Opportunity Account would be formed before a child would be born. And then once the child is born, $1,000 would be deposited into this account by the federal government. On top of the $2,000 per year that is deposited into the account would also have a 3% interest rate. So you would be able to make 3% off of all of the money sitting in that account. Now, this account would not be accessible to anybody but the child until the child turns 18. So the money cannot be touched by anybody, not the family, not the parents, not the child itself, until that child turns 18. And once the child turns 18, the money is only accessible to them, meaning that family members cannot take advantage of this fund that has been set up by the federal government on behalf of that child. According to the Baby Bond Program, the money that is deposited into this account on a yearly basis would be dictated by the income level of that family. And depending on how much you make as a family and how much above the poverty line you live would dictate how much money gets deposited into that account on a monthly basis. Once a family has made over 500% above the poverty line, that would make them ineligible for any monthly funds to be deposited into this account at all. For example, 500% above the poverty line for a family of four is roughly $130,000 per year. Taking this income threshold into account, the maximum amount that a child could receive by the time they're 18 years old is approximately $50,000. And this is assuming that that child's family is living either at the poverty line or below the poverty line. And as a result, they were able to qualify for not only the $1,000 initial deposit, but also $2,000 every year up until that child turned 18. Now, the thought process behind the Baby Bond Program and programs similar to this is to level the playing field amongst children and to allow for children of low-income families, low-income communities have access to similar opportunities of the same children that are in high-income families and high-income communities. And interestingly enough, though the Baby Bond Program is definitely a Democratic-leaning bill, it was introduced by two Democrats, Senator Cory Booker and Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, and it's been co-sponsored by a handful of other Democratic leaders, including Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. But this entire idea, the idea of giving yearly payments to children of low-income communities, actually isn't a Democratic proposal exclusively. In fact, Senator Mitt Romney, who's a Republican senator, recently introduced a very similar plan to this. With Senator Mitt Romney's child benefits proposal, a child would receive $4,200 every year up until they turn 6 years old. And then once that child turns 6 years old, they would then receive $3,000 per year up until they turn 17. The kind of rules surrounding this program are very similar to the Baby Bond Program in the sense that the government would deposit the money, the child and the family of the child will not have access to those funds until the child became an adult, at which point the money can be used for things like college, starting a business, buying a house, doing things like that. Now, the idea of some sort of bond program or some sort of child high-interest savings account program is a fairly nonpartisan issue. Now, there is definitely issues that lawmakers are are having with this. There is definitely pushback. There is definitely a Republican versus Democratic issue here. But the fact that we have two different senators from very different sides of the aisle kind of coming up with very similar proposals is a very promising sign that both sides of the aisle agree that something like this is somewhat necessary. But the details of the program is certainly going to be where they disagree. Now, even though this is an idea and this is a proposal that has garnered some sort of support on both sides of the aisle, there is of course pushback. And some of the key sticking points for a bill like this is not only the high price tag, but also the government overreach that would come along with providing children with yearly government payments. And one of the counterpoints to that argument could be the fact that the government money that is being put into these accounts on a yearly basis would be offset later on when that money can be used to stimulate the economy when the child turns 18. Now, I'm not here to necessarily debate about the pros and cons of a program like this, but I do think it's an interesting thing to explore. And you do look at other countries like Ireland, the UK, Sweden, Germany, who have very similar programs to this, and you have to wonder what type of benefit it could have in the United States. Now, granted, the programs in these countries I just mentioned are not the exact same as the one that's being proposed here in the United States, and of course, the size of the United States compared to other countries definitely adds some complexity to the equation. But regardless, I do think that this is a really interesting program to explore, and I'm looking forward to see if this type of program gets any headway in the coming months or in the coming years. Whether it's a baby bond program similar to the one that Senator Cory Booker and Congresswoman Presley introduced, or if it's more of a child benefits program like Senator Mitt Romney introduced, I do think that we could end up seeing some sort of program like one of these two introduced in the coming months or in the coming years. And I do think it would be incredibly interesting to see how a program like this could assist in the process of leveling the playing field amongst children in low-income communities versus children in high-income communities. But with that being said, you guys, I wanted to make a video on this because I think that this type of proposal is incredibly interesting, and I would definitely be interested to see how this affects the economy, the housing market, and different economic issues throughout the United States if a proposal like one of these two was to be passed. But with that being said, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you have anything to add, make sure to leave a comment down below. What are your thoughts on a baby bond program? Do you think the government should be sending out yearly payments to children in low-income communities? If so, or if not, why do you think that? Make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. And I will see you guys in the next video.